Hello. Welcome to my video. I'm glad you could be here. Today I'm going to talk about how I discovered Elliott Smith's music. Smith's. That's a hard word to say for me. I used to have a lisp when I was younger. Maybe I still do a little bit, but when I was younger it was pretty prominent. And I didn't realize I had one until one day in grade 7. These two girls, one of them, Tamara, I forget the other one, they were talking to me and then they asked me to say something. I assume it was something with an S in it. And then I said it and then they started giggling at me and they walked away. So then that's when I realized I had a lisp. But I like to think they were giggling because it was cute. Maybe. But no, I'm pretty sure they were just bullying me. Regardless though, I thank them because then I became aware of it and then consciously worked on getting rid of it and it went away. No one told me you're supposed to put your S behind the teeth. I always had it like in between. You think someone along the way would have been like, hey Dustin, you're not supposed to say your S's like that. I had to figure it out myself. Thank you everybody in my life who's older than me. It's ironic though, by the time I got rid of it, I learned that it didn't matter. So let's just move on to the Elliott stuff. I've always loved hearing stories about how people discovered Elliott because he wasn't super mainstream. So it's not like asking, how did you discover Kanye West? It's like, what are you talking about? I went outside, and then a lot of his fans became fans when he wasn't actively making music after his death. So to discover him, you have to like go out looking for him, stumble across him, or have someone tell you about him. Anyway, since I love those types of stories so much, I thought I would share mine. And if you have an Elliott Smith discovery story, leave it in the comments because I would genuinely like to read it, and I'm sure a lot of other viewers would as well. Even if it seems totally mundane and typical, share it anyways. I still like reading about it. Humans like relating. Sometimes it's just nice to hear a snapshot of someone's typical everyday life to get that rare glimpse. I don't know why I went like this. My hand gestures are fucking out of control, man. I guess the phrase for what I'm talking about is a slice of life. I'm gonna serve you guys up a slice of life, so I hope you're hungry. I do have a vegan option also. Put on your bibs here, and okay, I'm sorry. You know what? That's too much. Taking the joke a bit farther. So most of these stories are mundane, but mine? No. Mine is far from mundane. In fact, you might want to put on a seatbelt. So my story begins in Portland, Oregon, 1993. I was sitting in the legendary La Luna Lounge when none other than Elliott Smith walks in and sits right next to me at the bar. And the first thing he says to me is, no, I'm just kidding. First of all, I was 4 years old in 1993 and I live in Canada. In fact, I'm not even allowed in America. And that's a story for another time. I'm not a criminal. I mean, pretty much. All my crimes are non-victimless. Or wait, no, victimless. So my story is actually fairly mundane as well. I'll try throwing a lie or two to spice it up, but you can take your seatbelts off. I was about 20 years old when I discovered him, I think. It was about 10 years ago. I'm 31. I was really depressed at that time. I was also going through a bad breakup, which I wasn't handling well at all. And then also I was just starting to get into using crystal meth, which turned into a big ordeal. Turns out it's quite addicting stuff. It sinks its hooks into you, and then once it's in there, it just never lets go. So that was the state of my life at the time, and that will be relevant to the story in a minute. So when I discovered Elliott Smith, I was up very late. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning probably, and I was looking for new musicians to listen to. And sometimes the way I go about that is just go onto Google and then search. So I came across a list, and I think the title was Top 20 Alternative Artists of the 90s. And I don't know if you want to consider Elliott Smith alternative or not. I guess technically he would be defined as that. I don't like that word alternative because every alternative band can fit into another more specific genre. It's sort of just a weird classification that I don't think needs to exist. Anyways, the list. So I was going through the list, and the first band that I noticed on there that piqued my interest was the Red House Painters. The author of this article wrote like a paragraph for every band, and I think they were rated like 15 or something like that. And so I downloaded all their music, their discography. That's usually how I go about it. I never got really big into the Red House Painters. They're okay. I go back every once in a while. They're no Elliott Smith, to me anyways. So a few ranks higher on the list was Elliott Smith. I think he was like 11th or 12th or something, which is a total outcry. Obviously, he should be number 1 on every freaking list that ever existed for anything, even outside of music. He should be the first thing on your grocery list. But I'll forgive the author because his article kickstarted my love for Elliott Smith. So same thing, I downloaded his entire discography, and that was totally based off the paragraph he wrote. It was enough to pique my interest. It was like the typical thing you would hear about Elliott. It was like he had whispery vocals, he struggled with this and that, and he died this way or whatever. And as someone who has never heard of him before, that is a really intriguing description. So I downloaded everything. I was going through the discography, and I remember just picking this song because I thought it had a cool title. And if you want, pick a song that you think has the coolest title on figure 8, and we'll see if we got them right, okay? So I'll give you a few seconds to pause it. That should be enough. If not, you're way too slow. I picked Can't Make a Sound, which is a very cool title. Like, a musician who can't make a sound? What? That's zany. So I played it, and it was captivating right away. And the part that really hooked me and really captured my attention was, I guess it's the pre-chorus. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to look at it. But the part where he sings, "The monologue means nothing to me." And then the heavier drums kick in, and then the lead guitar comes in with like such a perfect tone. That part was like one of the greatest musical moments of my life. You know, when you're listening to a song that you fall in love with right away, and it's just like a really blissful feeling, really satisfying feeling that I noticed you'd get more often when you were younger, which is kind of sad to say. So anyways, I played that song many times in a row, and I think I listened to it probably 50 times that week. I like fell in love with this song so hard, and I think it was a really good song to have randomly picked, because there are a lot of songs in Elliott's catalog that I know if I clicked on it and listened to that first, I wouldn't have instantly been captivated. I would have been like, I don't know if this is for me, because a lot of his music really took time for me to appreciate. Like if I put on, for example, Baby Britain, it was a song that I really wasn't big on for a long time. I would have been like, yeah, this really isn't for me. But Can't Make a Sound was really accessible to me. Just the poignancy of it, and it's very melancholic, which a lot of Elliott Smith songs are, but then there are some like Baby Britain, which isn't as melancholic, and I'm all about that melancholy, brah. So Can't Make a Sound made a really good first impression, although I don't think it mattered too much because I would have delved into the rest eventually anyways. I don't think first impressions are as important for songs as they are for people. Even then, I think that's debatable. Some people think it's everything. They say if you make a bad first impression, you will never be cool in that person's eyes, ever. But I don't think that's true. I've won people over in time before, or like worn them down until they liked me. So like I said, I went through the rest of his music eventually. Some of it I fell in love with right away. A lot of it I didn't though, but did eventually. Eventually I liked everything. And eventually I became such a big fan that my like for his music was automatic, which might sound dumb. You're just gonna like a song just because it's him? Yeah, it's like if you saw like your brother going up and putting on a concert, it's like you're gonna like it and support it, right? And since you love hearing that person perform. And then also, I don't think he really did put anything out that was so far off from his style that it's like, I'll like it because it's Elliott, but deep down I kind of hate it. No, deep down I really do like all his music. Even I'm Going to Get Crushed, okay? I'm a pretty big fan. Actually, I don't know. That may be the one song that I don't play it very much. So I became a very big fan very quickly. And I think I fell in love with his music so quickly just because of the things I was mentioning earlier that were going on in my life. A lot of these central themes in Elliott's music had to do with the problems I was facing, like lost love, depression, addiction. Those are pretty pervasive themes in Elliott's music. So discovering Elliott Smith's music was a big turning point for me. It's hard to say how much it impacted the events in my life that would play out, but I know it has really affected the way I think and perceive things. Like, I think I probably would have done the same things, but would have gone about them in a different way. You'll see what I mean by that in a minute. This kind of talk always gets like philosophical when you start talking about like alternate timelines and stuff like that, like butterfly effect shit. Maybe if I didn't discover his music, I'd be living in the foothills of a Sri Lankan mountain range, training to become a bullfighter choreographer. Somebody has to choreograph that stuff. You think they just come up with that stuff on their own? No. I like using Sri Lanka whenever I need like an abstract country in a joke, because no one knows anything about it and it works for everything. Watch, I have one Sri Lankan subscriber just like crying right now. I'm so sorry. If you exist, I love you. And so how did Elliott Smith impact the events in my life? Well, up until I discovered him, I'd played guitar, but I never sang. I didn't want to learn to sing. I didn't think I'd be good at it. And it seemed really hard to play and sing at the same time. And I guess I just didn't have like a real big urge to. And I barely took guitar seriously at that point. I just played like here and there. But when I got into Elliott Smith's music, and one of the first songs that really stood out to me was Between the Bars, of course. And I loved that song so much that I really wanted to learn how to play and sing it. Because playing a song on guitar, it's like, yeah, it's cool and it kind of gets you into the moment and stuff. But for me, when I sang along with a song instead of played along with a song, it would be much more satisfying. Like I would get more swept up in it. So Between the Bars was such a great song to me. I'm like, imagine I could play this and sing it at the same time. So I started to just work it out slowly. Probably sounded awful. And then so the next step after I started singing was, oh, I wish I could make music like Elliott Smith. So then I started writing songs. So I guess he's responsible for me starting to sing and ultimately songwriting, which that would be a massive impact on the direction of my life because I spend half my free time doing that sort of stuff. But I don't know if I can credit Elliott because I probably would have got into that stuff anyways, just through a different avenue. That said, I'm really happy I got into it through Elliott Smith because he's like an ideal artist, I think, for my personality and my tastes. And he's a really great artist for a beginner to emulate because he really does not have any shortcomings when it comes to songwriting. And yeah, it's good to emulate yourself, I think, after an artist to learn. Even though he's a great artist to emulate, don't expect to ever write anything that sounds remotely like him because you will just get frustrated. It's funny, all the similar artists to Elliott Smith, I don't think are similar at all. Bright Eyes, Jeff Buckley, or like Sparkle Horse, all the usual suspects that come up. I like all of them, but they're not like Elliott to me at all. Sparkle Horse maybe, I think is maybe the most similar to a degree just because of the emotional output he put into his music as well. That was Elliott's like superpower. And I think the Sparkle Horse guy, what's his name, Marcus or something like that? I don't know. I'm not a huge fan, but I think he had a lot of emotional expression as well. John Frusciante, even though their music doesn't sound the same, he was a solo artist with an acoustic guitar and going through a lot of problems that Elliott went through. And they're sort of similar in that way, and just their music is really emotional. So I think that's an artist I like to compare Elliott with too, is John Frusciante. Bright Eyes, I didn't really see it. I've never been big on them. I went through a little phase, and I like Connor a lot. He's a good musician, but it doesn't sound like Elliott to me. It sounds like emo music, and Elliott was not that. I hate when Elliott Smith gets the emo comparison or the sadcore. He was part of like the generation of artists that inspired the artists who spun off of that type of music and then started making emo. And maybe I'm just getting defensive over the term emo. I mean, a lot of emo bands are like good, well-respected bands, but then the emo, like the is a movement. It's not a movement. The what is it? The culture, the emo culture. People don't like that. I doubt I will ever find any artist or band that I would like as much, or even come close to liking as much as Elliott Smith. And I'm not closed off to that. I just genuinely think that's true because I've spent so much time searching for music over the years, like prolifically, and I've listened to so many bands and stuff like that. I don't think there's any artist with enough fame that's out there that I would discover that I like more than Elliott Smith. I don't think that exists. I genuinely don't. If there is an artist out there that I would like more than Elliott, they must be some very obscure, unheard of artist. And then also I'm 31 and you get less impressionable as you get older. So it's not like I'm going to be like 70 years old and be like, oh shit. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. Oh, did you hear this new like fucking musician? He's dope. Anyways, guys, that's my story. I'm gonna let you go for now. Thank you so much for listening. Pretty soon I'm gonna upload a video ranking and reviewing Elliott Smith interviews. I'll do like the top 5 or 6 most popular ones on YouTube, just because I think his interviews are interesting, because a lot of the time the interviewer really struggled to connect with him. he wasn't an easy person to interview, but there were some really bad ones, and then some that were okay. We're gonna go through them and point out the shittier ones, Carson Daly, and just review them, point out the good parts, the awkward parts, and all that. I think it would be a fun video for an Elliott Smith fan. And then also I'm gonna do like a top 10 Elliott Smith song video. Someone suggested in my comments, which is going to be crazy hard and it's guaranteed going to upset many people. And I don't know how I'm going to narrow it down to 10. That's a list that I can't set in stone. It's going to change all the time, but I'll do my top 10 favorite songs of the moment. And we'll discuss it and share our opinions and all that jazz. Anyways, I love you guys. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.